Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Guys on Sports. We're just a few short weeks away from the NFL draft. We did Dynasty 101 last week, me and Rocky. Unfortunately, Mark couldn't be there. Mark, well wishes with that problem you had, the rash. Sorry about that.
For you guys, I wasn't here.
Lucky for everybody.
Lucky for the audience.
You weren't here. But this week, we got to be conscious of the time because we are about to embark on a Dynasty, our first mock draft of the season, our Dynasty draft. Shout outs to Sleeper. We're using their app today for the draft. So we will be doing this draft sans rookies because it's before the draft. We'll redo it again once all the rookies have found their new homes. But without further ado, I'm going to get this draft started. I'm going to put the screen recording that Rocky's doing for us. Thank you, Rocky. On the bottom of the screen so you guys can keep up. We'll try to talk through all the bot picks in between our picks. Rocky has pick number 1. Mark has pick number 3. I have pick number 5. And we're ready to rock and roll. Anything you guys want to say about Dynasty? How you feeling? What you thinking going into this before we start?
I love Dynasty. Every year I look to start a new Dynasty.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. That's good. You got anything?
Nothing. I don't want to follow
So
that.
we're doing 10 rounds. It'll be a starting lineup of 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex players, a kicker, and a defense, unfortunately.
Nobody's drafting him.
Yeah. We'll say that again.
No one's drafting him.
No one's drafting him. Exactly. So we'll draft 2 bench players. All righty. Here we go. Draft is started. Yes, I'm sure.
All right.
Rocky's on the clock.
Yeah, and I'm going to go. I mean, I'm striking while the iron is hot. I'm going with the first tight end off. No, I'm not. But there's a guy in every draft that does that.
Yes,
that
100%
pulls a
there is.
quarterback, or this is where they draft Patrick Mahomes or something ridiculous.
Something
But,
stupid.
You know, I'm 1-1. I have to go chalk. There's a bunch of running backs that I really like here. But my pick is going to be Jamar Chase. I mean, I think he's going to score the most fantasy points this year. I think he's back and happy with the contract, and I think he's going to rock and roll.
All right. At pick 2, we had Justin Jefferson go. I can't argue with that one too much, but we have Mark on the clock. What do you got?
So here's the thing. I don't fault you for taking Jamar Chase 1-1. I think you can make the claim that you can definitively take Jamar Chase there. What I don't like about taking Jamar Chase at the 1-1 is you're leaving a lot of meat on the bone for them running backs because there's only a couple of cornerstone running backs that are going to be around for a very, very long time. I don't think you do.
You pick every year.
Nope. You are going to be surprised then, my friend. I am not going down south to the ATL. I'm going to take that high octane offense in Detroit.
This is a mistake.
And I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is an all-around playmaking running back that has elite speed, and he's been sharing time with David Montgomery. David Montgomery is going to pretty much be out of the fold this year. It's going to be the Jahmyr Gibbs show, and you watch just what Jahmyr Gibbs can do. I am opting to take Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan Robinson right here at the 1-3.
See, I like the way he did that. Next time, let's talk up your pick before you make it so that way we can kind of analyze the bot pick. Brock Bowers at 4. That's pretty high.
It is high.
I guess you can make an argument because he's probably going to be tight end 1 for the next 3 to 4 years at least.
I mean, if he bases off what he did last year, you're right.
But he also, the reason why he can go this high is because he does put up wide receiver 1 numbers.
Yeah,
so you're essentially getting an additional wide receiver 1 in your lineup.
But his wide receiver 1 numbers are based entirely off the amount of receptions. So if he has a season, and I don't know that he could top last year in the number of receptions. So I would not go here, but I understand why they did.
All right, so 40 seconds off my clock. Thank you, boys, for that.
It's not going to matter. You're going to do a shit pick here anyways.
Okay, thank you for the cursing. Another edit. QB, running back, wide receiver, all the positions. There's a lot of good players left on the board, obviously, at pick 5. I'm going with the youth movement here. There's a lot of wide receivers left, and I'm taking Bijan Robinson. I don't think that you should have passed up on him. I love Gibbs, but Bijan, they've just begun to take the shrink wrap off of that.
They just figured out how to use him.
Yeah, there's a lot of green grass ahead for Bijan, and I'm looking at the next 3 to 4 years getting my workhorse running back into the fold.
And thankfully, Atlanta's, because they suck, they haven't had a lot of tread on will. So
Here's the thing. You can't go wrong with Bijan Robinson. The reason why I opted with Gibbs over Robinson is for the mere fact that Atlanta, I don't know what you're going to get. You have Penix here in his second year. You have some wide receivers that also need the ball. I don't know. Penix
All right,
is a
Mark,
little
I
too
gotta
mobile.
cut you off. Sorry, there's a lot of picks made. We got Josh Allen going at pick 6, which is a little surprising.
That's crazy.
Malik Neighbors, I kind of call this in dynasties that he's going to be going high, but I'm not mad at it. CD Lamb, can't knock it. Jaden Daniels, high for me.
3 quarterbacks in the first round. This is
Amon-Ra
crazy.
St. Brown, I don't like here. Puka, I think, is a great pick here. Lamar Jackson. Anybody stand out besides Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels to you?
No,
I think St. Brown is a little bit of a reach in the dynasty this high.
I don't mind Amon-Ra St. Brown there. I do mind Jaden Daniels as the second quarterback off the board.
Yeah, that's surprising. I don't think he's proven that much yet. But Rocky, you're on the clock. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is a tough because I feel like I do need to go running back here, but there is a wide receiver I really want that is still available that I think is going to be a cornerstone. But I'm going to do somewhat of a chalk pick here, and I'm going to draft Saquon. I just can't pass him up. And the guy I wanted went immediately after, and that was Brian Thomas. I think Thomas has all the intangibles of being a cornerstone wide receiver.
So here's the thing. Brian Thomas could be, and I absolutely love Brian Thomas. I'm kind of relieved that he just went with that pick so that I don't have to really have a decision to make here. What I will say, the reason why I would pass on Brock Bowers, especially in the top 5 of Dynasty pick, is for the next guy that's sitting there on the board. I'm not taking him, but there's a guy like Trey McBride on the board. I don't understand why you feel the need to jump for Brock Bowers when there is a guy like Trey McBride that you can get much cheaper while still getting your stud RB or wide receiver 1. So I just want to make that point very clear to all of our Dynasty followers. Don't overextend yourself for positions that you can get people that are very comparable. Now, with that being said, I'm put in the awesome position of, again, going young, dynamic running back who is going to find himself with a much, much heavier workload this year. And I'm talking about down in Miami, down in the southern Sin City. You got Raheem Mostert that's basically off the team. You got Devin Achane, who essentially is going to have all of the touches in the backfield here. You have a team that's going to want to rebound here and get the ball in the end zone. Achane is explosive. Please sign me up for this tandem of Jahmyr Gibbs and Devin Achane to start my dynasty.
Yeah, I don't love Achane. I think we've talked about this a lot on the show. I just don't. I love the player. I don't love
He's undersized.
his durability.
I figured
it
that.
worries me just a little bit. I think you took the wrong running back in Florida, and I'm going to correct that mistake for you. We have Nico Collins going at 4. I like the Nico Collins pick here. I think you got to expect a bounce back from C.J. Stroud. I don't know how you guys feel, even though I think he's a little overhyped coming off the rookie season. But Nico Collins is the real deal as long as he can stay on the field. How do you guys feel about Nico? Anything to add to that?
No, I mean, nothing. I think he's
You like this spot? for
everything
him?
you said, yeah.
I think it's a little high for him here, but I don't not like Nico
You
Collins.
can't rail against it, right? Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. All right, so like I said, I think there's another running back in the state of Florida that is the guy you're going to want. That offense is just a machine. I think as we go forward, Sean Tucker is not going to be much more than a rotational guy. I think the much ballyhooed, and I'm forgetting who's the guy that we were talking about.
Rachaad White.
Rachaad White is kind of turning into what Rocky thought he was, a little bit more gadgety than we thought. I think Bucky Irvin is set to kind of be one of those guys this year. I think he showed everything he needed to. Runs with power, vision, speed, catches the ball, the block in the backfield, all around back, a little bit of a throwback. Give me Bucky Irvin here to pair up with Bijan Robinson.
Well, considering that I put Bucky Irvin in my top 5 running backs this year, I'm not going to give any pushback because I said that Bucky Irvin should be targeted early and often, and that's in redraft leagues as well.
So then we have Drake London, Trey McBride, Joe Burrow, Harrison, JSN, Jalen Hurts, and A.J. Brown that go off the board. Phil, can you do a little bit while I'm making my pick? Do
Yeah.
you have this league set to no rookies?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so there's no rookies that we can select at all.
Right.
No, it said that before the show. Said it in the opening.
Ashton Genty would have been one of the first
Yeah.
5
Well,
picks off
that's
the board.
actually what I was looking, and as usual, I kind of ignore most of what you say.
That's not a good move.
Which I think it's a very fair. I'm gonna stick here and go with there's a running back I really want, but there's a wide receiver I think is gonna finally give us the potential that he's promised. Year in and year out, we've talked about him. He's been kind of combined with some bad quarterbacking and a misdirected coach, but I'm gonna go ahead and take Garrett Wilson here. I think he's gonna have a huge year.
Yeah, I mean, I love Garrett Wilson, and obviously Fish Eyes is going to be staring him down, but
Yeah.
I just don't think he's a good enough thrower to get him the ball consistently. You might argue with me here, and I'm waiting for it, but I think DJ Moore is a different animal than Garrett Wilson is as a receiver.
1000%.
DJ Moore, I feel like his game is a lot more closer to the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
Easier throws, so it worries me a little bit with Wilson.
And this is true. However, I will say that Iguana Eyes is going to lock on Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is never going to have a higher target share than he does this year.
And they have camaraderie from Ohio State. He knows the kind of route and where to high point the ball, like where to throw to. It's just an easy. I think the Jets made the decision for Justin based on the fact that they had.
Well, boys, now that you've left me with 7 seconds to select my pick,
No, a minute and 7.
what I'm going to do here is that pick in between ours, Rocky,
Lad
is the
McConkey.
one that I really like.
This was who I was debating.
Lad
between Garrett or
McConkey
Ladd. Yeah.
is where I would have started my wide receivers. But since Ladd is gone, and I still feel that I can get great quality at wide receiver later in the draft, I'm going to start filling out my flex positions. And we did not do super flex. I just want to be, we couldn't have, because or else there would have been a lot more quarterbacks off the board. Answered the question myself. Here, I'm going to fill out one of my flex positions with another young stud of a running back. I get that Braylon Allen was in town last year, but that goddamn team was in shambles, man. They could not find an identity. If you don't think that Breece Hall is the man of this backfield and is going to have 80% of the shares, then you're kidding yourself. Please, please, please. This dynasty could not have started off better for me. Going Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, and then Breece Hall to follow that up.
I mean, it could have gone better if you picked up a wide receiver. I mean,
there's plenty out there, my friend, plenty.
Rashee Rice goes immediately, and we're on the clock
I
with
don't
Phil.
love that.
I don't love that
but
either.
I understand why. He looked good in limited action when he was healthy, and Casey's got to throw the ball to somebody.
And if you remember, somebody put you on Rashee Rice at the beginning of last year, calling him a top 5 wide receiver, and he was actually putting up top 3 wide receiver production before he succumbed to injury.
Succumbed.
That is
All
a
right.
singular word, succumb.
Succumbed. All right. So, I have a choice here. I'm really thinking about doubling down on running back,
Tripling down.
tripling down. I really feel like whatever. There's a lot of good wide receivers left on the board. The youth is starting to escape just a little bit. But, we still have our post draft show to do, so we'll do that there. I think I will double down on running back here because there's just
Triple down.
No, it's double down to me. I'm doubling down. First 2 is counted as 1. I'm just doubling up. Now I'm doubling down.
This makes 0 sense.
English is a second language.
It's
Esau.
actually a first. I speak better English.
This is someone who has painted himself in a corner and says, it doesn't count that I walked out because I have socks on. My feet are clean. That's what this is.
Yeah.
Socrates. All right. Man, this is tough. This is the first time I'm a little stumped on where to go.
18.
No, you know what?
17.
You know what I'm gonna do?
16.
You got 15 seconds to decide, buddy boy. Otherwise, it's picking for you.
You're witnessing a brain cramp.
Yeah, it's happening. I'm going Roma Doomsday.
Oh, that was a panic pick.
No, I was between him and Addison.
Sam Laporta.
I tell you what, you could not have had a better panic pick though. Like I said, Roma Dunze is going to be. He's the one who has the chemistry with Caleb Williams.
My pick here. So this is a pick for the next 3 years. I'm looking at the the draft board here and counting on being able to get some vets in the wide receiver position later on to kind of stabilize it. All right. Sorry, Rocky.
Okay, after him, we had Sam Laporta, James Cooks, and Jonathan Taylor, both of who would have been my next pick.
I was thinking about picking them, but
Yeah.
the guy's a little long in the tooth. Or,
Josh Jacobs goes, Kyron Williams, Devontae Smith, and T. Higgins. I feel the need to pick up a running back. There is CMC on the board still Derrick Henry, but I'm going to go with a little bit younger, one that I really focused on in a clip not too long ago. A little bit early for him, but I like Chase Brown, and so I am going to be drafting Chase Brown as my second running back. CMC goes immediately after, and Mark, you are up.
Yeah, I love Cook and I love Taylor, but I'm
I do
trying
too.
to use my early rounds here to attack youth and then kind of fill in later with the vets that are left.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not looking to win as much this year as
Trying
I
to
am
build a
to
team.
build,
All right.
which might be a mistake.
I
this
think
year.
Chase Brown was a slight reach here. I get the sexiness of the pick.
Well, to be
If
fair, you didn't
Cincinnati-
hear my analysis prior to this show, so you would have thought it was the right pick.
If Cincinnati escapes draft day without drafting one of the 4 top running backs, which I don't think they do, I think they end up bringing in one of the Ohio State guys or Omari and Hampton. I really do. I think
Yeah.
Cincinnati is going to bring somebody into that backfield.
I would say there's no chance because what they need is a defensive end. They need an edge rusher, especially with their number one threatening to sit out the entire year. So I think they're going edge in the first round.
All right. Well, if you're done cutting into my time, you know what?
You were talking.
Now I'm going to take my very first wide receiver. I'm going to bring a guy off the board here that I do feel very confident this year in New Orleans. I feel that Chris Olave. I'm hoping that the concussions are behind him. Chris Olave is pure talent. The guy wins the ball down the field. I'm okay. This is the reason why I wait until the 4th round to start selecting wide receivers, because to get Chris Olave in the 4th round to me feels like an absolute steal, and I feel like I'm drafting with a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing. Chris Olave.
Yeah, I feel like this is a great pick a year ago. Chris Olave, ultra talented, but to take him as your first wide receiver in the 4th round in a dynasty league, a guy who's been battling concussions,
It's brilliant.
not to mention other stuff.
It's called value, Phil.
Well, I don't think the value's here. I think there's about 5 other guys I would have taken before him here. And I like Olave, but he would have been there for you later on, I believe. With that being said, CJ Stroud, so surprising to go here. I don't understand this. I don't know how you go based off what he did last year and take him here.
Upside,
I know
man.
he's young, but
Upside.
yeah, but he's a quarterback. It doesn't make much sense to me, but who am I? Okay, so a lot of wideouts left, as I predicted. And it's just the point of who I'm going to go with. You know what?
I think I know who you're going with.
I got a couple guys on my radar. You don't know who I'm going with. Who am I going with?
Well, I don't want to say it, but I think you and I are similar in how we look at this wide receiver. So,
Maybe.
Darius Slayton.
No, but he's going to be better this year for sure. He's
Well,
been
better
solid.
than-
He's been solid his whole career. I don't think he's shitting on Darius Slayton.
Well, in the 4th round of a dynasty, I think it's pretty obvious why
That'd
I'm
be pretty
shitting on
bad, yeah.
Darius Slayton.
Well, I didn't pick him, so you shitting on yourself. All right, so I got 38 seconds left, and I'm caught in between and betwixt 2 guys here. And you know what? I'm making a play for this season. I'm going with Tyreek Hill.
You know what? You turned into a real clock sucker, my friend. You are getting deep into the count here.
I'm letting you
so
guys talk.
we've got Xavier Worthy, Drake May, T.J. Hawkinson, Zay Flowers, Patrick Mahomes, DJ Moore, who I was focused on as my next pick, and then Kenneth Walker. So now I'm on the clock with 1:47. The receiver that I wanted is gone.
Okay.
And I have to look and see. And to be honest, I think the receivers that are left will still be the ones that I want, will still be their next round. I'm going to go, unlike Phil, I'm going to go for somebody who is right now. So I think I'm building a team that I'm going to possibly win this year with, and I'm going to draft another running back who has the lion's share of their carries, and that is the good old Derrick Henry with treading his wheels and getting him in the 5th round. I don't know how anybody could fault this pick.
I can't fault it, no, but I mean, it's uninspired.
Justin Herbert goes next. And
So I will say
Krusty.
one thing in the 4th round there. One guy that I was disappointed to see go because I was hoping to come back and snatch him in the 5th round is I'm high once again on Zay Flowers. I'm high on him being the wide receiver 1 in that offense. I really like what Lamar Jackson did last year. I really, really, really like what Zay did. And Zay shows up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
He is a consummate gamer. I really do like Zay. I was hoping to pair him with Chris Olave with my already dominant backfield. But now I got to get scared into going for longevity, right? We have to go with our franchise signal caller. And you know what? Caleb Williams being in his sophomore year sitting there, he's not coming back to me in round 6. I am taking Caleb Williams off the board here, and I am super stoked about this in a dynasty league because I know that I have Caleb Williams now on my team for the next 10 years.
I think Caleb Williams, if you look at him, he was sneaky good last year. And so I cannot fault that pick. Chuba was next, and Phil's on the clock.
I think Caleb Williams got caught up in a media hype storm.
Real quick, though, to what Mark was saying, both Zay Flowers and DJ were the wide receivers I would have picked instead of Derrick Henry had they still been on the board.
Fair enough, and I feel like my hand is forced here, seeing how this board is falling.
I
need my signal caller of the future.
I know who you're going
and I'm
with.
going Mr. Bo Nix.
Yep, you're still in my bow. You're stealing
my
from
bow.
me. Then we got Jalen Waddle, Jamison Williams, Jordan Addison, George Pickens, Terry Scary Terry, who I was hoping to pick up in
Me
round
too.
4.
Yep.
DK Metcalf gone, George Kittle. And so I'm going to go right now. I think I have to go with my signal caller. And I think you guys are going to be shocked at who I go with
No,
right
I know
here.
where you're going.
Who am I going with?
I don't want to say.
Yeah. So I'm debating between 2 quarterbacks. There's one that I think will still be here in a later round.
Daniel Jones.
And one that I think will actually produce this year.
J.J.
And
McCarthy.
I am going to surprise everybody and draft Baker Mayfield.
I knew it. That's what I was thinking.
Joe Mixon is off the clock, and Mark is back up.
So Joe Mixon going there. Joe Mixon actually would have been in my thought process here to really solidify my second flex position with another clear-cut number 1 running back. The fact that he's gone leaves me a little free to, you know what, to practice what I preach. There's another, you'll be able to find another clip where I talk this guy up about finding himself in a potential wide receiver 1 role this year out in San Francisco. He's about to come off the board in the next couple of picks anyway. I don't know that he may make it back to me next round. He would definitely not make it to me in 2. I am going to stretch a little bit here, and I'm going to take Ricky Pearsall off the board because I truly do believe in his ability. I think that if I have him pegged correctly, and I do like pegging him, that he is going to be a guy to be reckoned with in San Fran. It looks like he's going to receive the lion's share of the targets here. I think Ayuk is going to be ushered out of town. He's going to have Kittle, obviously, to compete with, and it is a CMC-led offense, but they're going to need to move the ball down the field. They're going to have to move the chains. Pearsall is going to be your guy in a Cooper Kupp-like position. Give me Ricky Pearsall as my second wide receiver.
No, I don't hate this
The
pick.
youth movement.
And immediately, Brandon Ayuk, sighting, who probably won't even be in the lineup until probably Game 7 at the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good pick. All right, so in keeping with your future looking, I wanna round back to the running backs here, and I'm sticking with the youth movement. A little home cooking here with my 3rd running back off the board to go with Robinson and Irvin for the next 3 to 4 years. I'm going Tyrone Tracy. Showed a lot of versatility. Didn't really get the starting job till 5 weeks into the season. And he really was a revelation to those who weren't following the Giants in the preseason.
No, this is a good pick. And then immediately David Montgomery, Jerry Jeudy, who I was hyper-focused on. I think he's going to actually prove that last year was not a fluke. Cleveland, Kevin Stefanski, for all of his weaknesses, has proven that he knows how to use Jerry Jeudy. He had him find space, and Jerry Jeudy could not be contained. That's a great pickup. Alvin Kamara, who's Old Faithful, and then 2 tight ends, Dalton Kincaid and Mark Andrews. And tight ends are starting to get slim. Mike Evans, who I was looking at, and also Jaden Reed were also players that I was looking at. So I am in a little bit of a tailspin because I don't love any wide receivers that are right here. Mm-hmm. There is one that I think I can wait and pick up. There is not a tight end that I love right now. And so I'm going to quadruple down on running back, taking one that I think has huge upside and one that I think is going to work in and become the offense in Arizona this year. And so I'm going to go Trey Benson, who I was super high on last year as he was recovering.
Nice. Okay, who went? Jalen McMillan went next.
Jalen McMillan. Then it's back to me.
I don't love that.
So I am in a quandary here, and I am going to mention a couple of people for obvious reasons. This is we want to break this down for you guys in a draft that is definitely not kosher to call out names prior to them being drafted, but I will let you know where my head is at right now. If Chicago does not bring another running back into the fold through the draft, DeAndre Swift immediately becomes a Jahmyr Gibbs-like running back in Chicago.
I agree.
Which I'd be happy to take. But I am very, 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 very much still a believer in what Travis Etienne can do in Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville, halfway through the season, decided to shut it down. I think they decided to explore what else they had talent-wise on that team, knowing that they did not have a shot at the playoffs with Trevor Lawrence being out. I think fast forward to this year, you have Brian Thomas now in his sophomore year. That is going to just be absolutely tremendous. They're probably going to bring in a second wide receiver. They let Evan Engram walk, I believe, so they'll bring somebody in a tight end. They're probably going to still split time between the two, but I kind of see this being a Sonic and Knuckles type of backfield with Etienne and also Bigsby. But I'm a firm believer that Travis Etienne is going to be used correctly this year in a pass-catching running back type role, and he's still very, very young. I'm going to reach here. I'm going to get Travis Etienne on my bench.
I like that.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, I'm iffy on Etienne, but you made a good case there.
I mean, he's got the
where
talent.
you're getting him, I can't fault it. So I'm looking at wide receiver here, and I have something funny going on. It's I'm looking at a guy that they have ranked about 4 or 5 spots down. They have projected higher than the 4 guys in front of him. He's older than maybe one of them. Doesn't make much sense to me, but you know what I'm looking at? I'm looking at New Orleans. I'm looking at Sean Payton. Looking at Drew Brees, Marquise Colston. I'm looking at Denver. I'm looking at a guy I have on my roster already, Bo Nix, and somebody to team him up with. Same body type as Marquise Colston. I'm going Cortland Sutton.
Damn it. Yeah, damn it to hell.
I see that he plays the same type of game as Marquise Colston.
Yes, he does.
Maybe not
and that ruins
as quick to get into stride, but he could break tackles, high points the ball. I see a lot of similarities. I'll feel comfortable starting both of those guys.
And that ruins my strategy. I was hoping he would make it to me, but even worse for me, Josh Downs went to pick before.
Yep.
Keon Coleman and Godwin, who was another guy that I was looking at low-key.
A little run on wide receivers there, yeah.
And then we had Isaiah Pacheco, James Conner, Zach Charbonnet, Kyle Pitts, and Michael Pittman. That leaves me up. I am a little bit of – I'm in a tailspin
No,
here.
you're not.
A little bit. There are some wide receivers left. I have 2 very good ones at the top. Mm-hmm. There is a tight end that I'm really tempted to pick up, but I'm going to go wide receiver here, and I'm really drafting to win this year, and I am going to draft Old Faithful Devontae Adams and hope that a change of scenery does him well.
So I want to be the first to thank you on that pick because he was going to be a wide receiver that I picked up here to cover myself with my Ricky Pearsall and Chris Olave start. What I will say is that I could go tight end here and fill out my starting roster. However, this next cluster of tight ends, I feel like they're so close in
They're all the
comparison
same. Yeah.
that I can wait another round.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that I love to do, it's to make sure that I have bench depth. That way, bye weeks, injuries, and also just matchup depending plays, I like to have that at my disposal. I spoke about both Travis Etienne and DeAndre Swift in my last little go around, and to see DeAndre Swift still available to me here. Since I went running back heavy, I'm going to continue down that running back lane, and I'm going to pick up my 5th running back here because you can start 4. I want to pick up DeAndre Swift and hope that Chicago does not make a blunder and take a running back with the 10th overall pick.
I rode DeAndre Swift into a couple playoffs last year. Really low-key produced well last year. Right after him goes the running back from Washington, Brian Robinson.
So we got a run on running backs here.
Yep. There's a couple still really good ones left.
Yeah, I probably would have went Swift here. I was thinking about Swift. I was thinking about Robinson. Want another solid back to back up my first 3. Injuries happen. I think it's always good to have a nice stable of running backs that you could count on. But I'm going with a guy that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And this is a guy who has been good, has been bad. But they brought him into town for one reason. That's to run the damn rock. And nobody does it better than this guy.
I like this pick.
Najee Harris is coming on the squad.
Solid pick. And then we got Ramondre Stevenson, Tony Pollard, Khalil Shakur, Xavier Legette, Cooper Kupp, Todd G. Spears, and then Aaron Jones. And now I am up. And I feel pressure to pick up a tight end here. I do agree with Mark. There are 4 or 5 that are they just appear to be the same. But there is one
I know who you're taking.
that is still a possible breakout. He's only a couple years away from being a top 5 tight end. And I think he's going to have some bandwidth this year. And I'm going to take my David Njoku, the Chief.
You're David.
I
I almost took him last round.
So that does put a little bit of a strain on me, feeling also that I need to go tight end because I know that I'm not going to get my guy if I wait any longer. However, what I will say is that in that last round, one guy that I was very remiss to see hit the board prior to my pick was a guy that I feel at 6'3", 227 pounds and 24 years of age, with Bryce Young coming on at the end of last season. Xavier Legette, I think, is due for a monster next few years in his career.
I like that.
I really do. I would have loved to have gotten him into my depth rotation here, but as luck would have it, the computer is actually pretty good at picking up some of these guys. So with that being said, now the next handful of wide receivers, I'm not really sold on. I mean, Calvin Ridley could jump off the page to you if this was, 2020.
Yeah.
It's not. So I am going to go out and get tight end. I am going to continue with the youth movement. I know the next guy on the board is Jake Ferguson. He's not that old. He's only 26 years old. But the guy that we have been high on for years, at 24 years of age, you already saw how he's used in the double tight end sets. And once Mark Andrews is gone, man, it is Isaiah Likely's team. Having missed out on Zay Flowers, I am very, very happy to come back here and get Isaiah Likely in the 9th round.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, I did think about drafting him, but I think, again, my team is clearly a win now, and I think Njoku will have a little bit higher potential this year.
Yeah, this puts me in an interesting spot. I could address tight end here, but I think at this point, I don't. There's one guy, but it's like it's a short window thing, and I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze, or if I should just get some more talent here for my bench. We're going 2 more picks, right? Right? No?
Yeah, you'll have 2 more because we're going to 10. Rocky and I have 1 more.
Yeah. So
we're on our last pick?
You and I, yeah.
coming up next, yeah. So I need a tight end in one of these next 2 picks, but I'm trying to steal another player here to make that graphic look good. You know what? I'll go get my tight end, and for 1 year, man, this is tough, man. I'm just gonna put out. I really want to take Jonnu Smith here, but with I took Hill already. I'm not sure how things are gonna shake out in Miami. I'm a little worried about that. Jake Ferguson seems like the best bet with that coming back, and I think I'm probably going to play it safe and go with Jake Ferguson. I'm not inspired by that.
After that, we've got Kyle Murray, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, which is a shock of a pick, Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, J.K. Dobbins, and Jared Goff. And I need, in fact, I would say I'm almost desperate for another wide receiver with upside, with potential. And they're few and far between because this is our last pick. I'll talk through my way of thinking. One guy that I almost wanted to highlight, and you went Pearsall, and I agree with it. I thought about doing Juwan Jennings because he had darn near an all-star season and really looked like he could develop into a really good receiver. And I do believe that Ayuk is leaving. But I need production and
now.
I need it now. And I am really struggling with this pick. I'm looking to see if there's a tight end that I think will produce. And I don't feel like, again, Jonnu Smith is interesting, or was that a one-year aberration? Evan Ingram, I'm super interested in him in Denver. I've got too many running backs. I'm forced into a wide receiver. And so what I'm going to hope is that Jacoby Myers has a breakout year.
Jacoby Myers, where you're getting him,
yeah,
he's going to produce solidly for you every year. He's
well,
underrated
and their new
guy.
quarterback is Geno Smith. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm hoping that Geno and him have some good years together.
I think they will. Jacoby's been solid no matter who's been throwing him the ball.
Next, the computer drafted AR, which is a shock.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Bro.
That's insane.
And Mark is back on the clock.
All right.
What's up
so
with that sleeper?
here's where I'm now in a quandary. I've currently only got 2 wide receivers on my roster, and I could go out and get the best one on the board, who is Calvin Ridley. However, I'm not very high on Calvin Ridley. I'm not high on Tennessee in general.
He's done. I think his best years are gone.
I do too. So what I now want to do is I'm going to utilize this pick in the 10th round, our final round of the draft here, to kind of show you how to implement another strategy. If you are a little uncertain of what your situation may look like, now is about the time where you want to kind of shore that up. Having told you my reasons for taking Travis Etienne back in the 7th round, I still can't be certain that Travis Etienne is going to be the guy in Jacksonville. Since on my team, I committed to running a 4 running back set with my 2 flex positions, I need to guarantee myself that I have 4 starting running backs.
So you're going to
And
double down.
for that reason, I'm going to double down. I'm going to bring Tank Bigsby into town. That way I know ultimately that I do have the Jacksonville starter to pair with Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, and Breece Hall.
I don't think that's a terrible pick.
It's not terrible. I just hate being in that situation.
Yeah.
Because halfway through the year, you could be, who are they starting? Who's getting more carries this
Well,
week?
you could be with neither, or they're both starting, and neither one is producing enough to be a start.
All right, so
Evan Ingram goes next.
Evan Ingram. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and grab one more wideout. This is a guy last year who proved out to be, and we'll see how it goes this year, to be wide receiver 1 on his team. Showed flashes. He has a little something to his game. So when I say his name, I'm sure you'll get what I'm saying. But Rashid Shaheed, I think, is a guy that may be the actual number 1 wide receiver come the end of the season next year.
Did you give any thought at all to Quentin Johnston? Because I looked at him, 8 touchdowns last year, started coming on, started showing a little bit of camaraderie.
Real quick, throwing you a curveball here. We're going to make one more pick, and let's make it a flyer.
Okay.
A guy we think that could surprise, a little bit of a sleeper.
Real quick,
And
let's
then we'll
talk
end
about
it.
who went off the board. Jonnu Smith, Cade Otton, Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Who, when was the last time he went in the 10th round? That's shocking. Rashad White, Pat Fryermuth, Bryce Young, and Cole Kmet.
Well, that's how it is for tight ends. You either go top 10 for your entire career and fall to round 10 immediately after.
So we are going one more pick, you're saying?
We're going, flyer, sleeper.
Yeah. And this is where I do wish that we had the ability to take
Yeah, but we don't. So save that for the next time.
So I'm going to double down, triple down a little bit. There is a running back that was hurt all last year that did not play that I feel like will take over. I know Chuba looked good in Carolina, but he isn't that good. And what that tells me is that their line figured it out at the end of the year last year with Bryce Young looking at like a real starting quarterback. And so I'm going to draft Jonathan Brooks, who I think is the best running back in Carolina right now.
Who they just brought somebody else? Oh, they brought in Rico Dowdle too.
Yeah. It doesn't scare me. Kelvin Ridley goes next, and Mark is on the clock.
Well, the computer is not adhering to our strict flyer rule here in the 11th round. Unfortunately. So I'm going to straight up take a flyer. And by all means, you're not going to take this guy in the 11th round. But I'm going to say his name because I want him in your mind to consider when you start getting into rounds 16, 17, 18. I want to take a flyer on a wide receiver who, if you remember correctly, he was the next it guy coming out of LSU in a long laundry list of LSU stud wide receiver ones. Kayshon Boutte ended up with that junior year where he was either injured or held out. There was a lot of media attention. Things went south. Because of that, he obviously was not drafted where his potential showed him the years prior. I know he was affected by COVID years, but now fast forward in New England, basically a guy that's just brought into camp by name, just to kind of try out, to not only win them out in camp to make a roster spot, but then to fill out a roster spot, eventually transition into the starting lineup and produce and look good down at the end of this, down the stretch of the end of the season. You bring in Stephon Diggs, you have Demario Douglas. I don't see why Kayshon Boutte can't continue to round out his game and be an awesome dynasty stash here at the ripe age of 22.
Yeah, I
Give
like
me
this pick.
Kayshon Boutte to store for future dynasty years.
Next, we got Mooney off the board, and
I don't even think we don't even have to worry about
the computer taking our flyers.
Yeah. All right. So this is a true flyer here, and I'm relating it to my team. I took Jake Ferguson, not inspired by him. So for the future, I'm looking at a guy that came out last year. This is another home cooking pick.
I like this one.
Has all the talent in the world. The thing I'm really looking at here is Russell Wilson going to start most of the season, or is Jameis Winston going to start more? Who's starting more? Because I think it affects this player a lot. Either way, I think going forward.
Tommy DeVito.
No, Theo Johnson. No, I hope not. Theo Johnson is a guy with all the measurables, athleticism through the roof. Wilson has a tough time throwing the ball in the middle of the field, which is what worries me. If you get some more Winston play, you get, I think, more of an opportunity for Theo. But I think it's a great stash late in your drafts. Kind of stick on your bench, all the upside in the world. And if he doesn't work out, you cut him. He does remind me a lot of Ingram and Njoku as far as his talent.
Well, and to be honest, I think he was on my board. I thought about drafting him, but I also thought about drafting Jatavion Sanders and Ben Sinnott at tight end. I think both of those two will start emerging. And if we're taking a true flyer, both of those guys are worth mentioning.
So what I would say is that round, the computer actually did adhere to taking a flyer.
Later on,
I think Theo Johnson and Jatavion Sanders are essentially interchangeable. I think they both have very similar body styles. I think they have dynamic athleticism. I think they're both in situations where the offenses in upcoming years are going to start to flourish, and they're going to be an integral part of those offenses.
I like Jalen Coker too.
So that is it with our draft. To round it off, the computer chose Jalen Warren, John Jennings, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Jalen Wright, and Jalen Coker.
Now, are there any guys that you got, any other names here that you guys just kind of want to throw? You can probably pause it that way it doesn't keep.
Okay.
No, I mean the board. That way it doesn't just keep filling out our rosters.
How do I pause it?
Are there any other names that you guys feel strongly that you should mention?
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, I am interested in Rico. because I'm not sold on Rocky's guy.
Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah, just coming back from the injury. I don't know what that's going to look like this year.
So he could have played last year, though. That was what interests me about Brooks. They actually, had they been going anywhere last year, would have brought him back on toward the end. So he's probably 18 months removed.
I will say I think Javonte Williams in Dallas is intriguing. I don't know that I would jump. Blake Corum, I think he's got another year or two to marinate. Yeah. But there is a name that up until they brought Devontae Adams into town, I thought this was the real reason why they let Cooper Kupp walk, was Jordan Whittington.
Yeah.
They liked what they saw out of Jordan Whittington. I think Jordan Whittington is still worth the stash because Devontae Adams is a rental. I mean, he is late in the game here. I think Jordan Whittington, he's got to be very, very...
Speaking of that, Cooper Kupp wasn't drafted.
Yeah.
Which is a surprise because I even forgot about him in Seattle. So,
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. That's true. He wasn't drafted. I'm trying. I do still like Romeo Doubs. It's just a mess over there.
I think that's the question.
I'd say take your favorite Green Bay wide receiver, maybe stash him at the end of your bench, see how it shakes out. Because I think at different times last season, they all look like they could be wide receiver 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I can't help but be intrigued by Denver's potential wide receiver 2, whether it's Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
I do like that because Bo Nix right now is developing that chemistry that's very, very important to get your solidified wide receiver 2 comfortable with.
Well, and I think that they're this is a decent wide receiver draft, but not a amazing one. And so I do think you're going to see some interesting possibilities evolve. Like I think Cedric Tillman, who came on last 3 games of last year for the Browns, he's another guy 6'4" with speed and is an end zone threat. I think we're going to start seeing Franklin coming out.
Yeah.
There was a lot of buzz about him.
Yeah.
And I do think he could look good.
And I think, if you're looking for a quarterback to stash on that bench for future years, look for Aaron Rodgers. I think he'll be there too.
Wow. You took Dak Prescott.
Yeah. All righty. So that is the show. This is our pre-NFL draft, Dynasty mock draft. We will continue to do them. We're going to, leading up to the draft, we will focus on the draft a little bit, but we will do another Dynasty mock post-draft. Stay tuned. If you like the show, like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Please follow us on all your socials at GON Podcast. Be sure to comment and tell us who you think had the best team. We will enlarge the teams here at the end so you can take a look at them and let us know your feedback at the end. We love you.
Peace.
See ya.